Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Tori here. I'm here today with Kyle Gese, my great friend, who is going to bring us some awesome knowledge on how to master our mindset. This is going to be a presentation that you guys are going to love. So I am going to turn it over to him, let him introduce himself, and then get on with this awesome presentation. Take it away, Kyle.
hey everybody. I'm Kyle Gese. I met Tori a few years. Oh no, not a few. Last February actually. At Funnel Hacking Live. Amazing human being. I'm super excited to be a part of this with her. She's fantastic, and I love everything that she's doing. So when she asked me to jump on here and help deliver a masterclass on mindset for you, I couldn't say no. I had to be a part of this. So. I'm super excited to do this, but a little bit of background on me and my story. I didn't actually start out in mindset anything, really. I was an Air Force photojournalist for quite a few years. And then when I got out of the service, I went through a whole bunch of struggles of my own, trying to figure out my path and my journey and where I was going to take myself. And I moved from journalism into the entertainment industry, and I started working with some folks shooting movies and TV shows and documentaries, and had a lot of fun doing that. But then I moved from the entertainment industry, and I just got the entrepreneurial itch and wanted to start my own business. So I started working with a really good friend of mine, Colton Crottinger, and helped him scale his company for a while. And then and while I was doing that, I was building my program. And then once I was ready to start venturing off and doing my own thing, then I moved into my self-mastery program. So as I went through my struggles and I started getting more clarity on who I was and what I wanted to do, and started figuring out how to really develop a sharp mindset and a clear vision for my future, I decided that it would probably be very selfish of me to withhold that information and not share it with everybody else. So I was like, well, that's going to be my program. I'm going to teach everyone else how to do the same thing that I did, and get the clarity that that they're looking for to do whatever it is that they want to do and be successful at it. So it's a little bit about me, but I'm excited to get into this masterclass. So thank you, Tori.
No problem.
All right, so let me see if I can get this set up so I can share screens. You might see me looking off a couple of different, I got a couple different screens, so I'm trying to multitask here. There we go. All right, so can you see my slides? Let me try to move myself out of the way. Okay, so today we're going to talk about mastering your mindset. I'm really excited about this piece, but I've got a couple of different frameworks for you that I want to walk you through as we go through talking about mastering your mindset. So the first one, let's talk about how to manipulate your brain to produce a response that you desire. So you want something to happen. You want whether that to be physical achievement, or you just want to have more emotional stability, or you want to feel better, whatever that is. You want to be deliberate about what you're doing, what you're thinking, so that your brain produces whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And so I call it ASH. So we have your action, something that takes place, the stories that you tell yourself, and the health that it produces. So I broke it down into 3 categories, tried to keep it really simple, and I wanted an acronym that you can remember. So if you just remember ASH, action, story, health, that's what we're going to be talking about in this first section. So the action, when whatever it is happens, so when something happens, I want to tell myself a story that will allow me to feel good, be more productive, live healthier, whatever it is that your health goals are, or whatever consequence or thing that you want to happen. That's going to be your health. So you want to, when whatever it is happens, you want to prepare yourself to tell yourself a certain story that will produce whatever outcome that you're looking for. So in ASH, I'm going to break it down and give you an example. So like, let's say this action takes place. It could be, and the action could be anything. It could be something that somebody said. It could be something that somebody did. It could be you are arriving somewhere. It could be anything. Pin drops on the floor. It could be endless. So I just want to talk about this picture right here. So Tori, I'm going to pick on you for a second. If you're just out and about doing a hike and you saw that, what are the stories that you would tell yourself? What do you think your first initial reactions would be if you saw that lion
is coming at me? I would know I need to look for some sort of cover, or to be able to get out of their way and not just take off running. They're going to be quicker than me.
I'm going to take a step back for just a second. That was perfect. But the story that you tell yourself when something like this happens, this whole process, the action story health, happens like that. It happens so fast, it's not even funny. Your brain processes this information so quickly that you already start producing the health results that whether you desire it or not, almost immediately. So as we're talking about this, I want you to think about slowing this down to the point where you're thinking very methodically about each individual step. But just keep in mind that when this happens in real time, in real life, that this happens so quickly that you almost don't even realize it's happening. But yes, okay, so you see a lion, you try to find cover, you try to protect yourself. Why? Because the story that you're really telling yourself is this. Oh my gosh, a lion is running at me. I'm going to die. This lion is going to maul me to death. It's going to eat me. It's going to kill me. That's the story that you're telling yourself. So then you're looking for that cover. You're looking for a place to hide. You're going to go run, and that's actually the health that you're trying to achieve. So the story that you're really telling yourself is, I'm going to die. If you saw that, like just that picture, and you're out on a hike, that's what you'd see. So this is the health that it produces. It's panic, it's fear, it's anxiety. It produces all of these symptoms or these reactions. So the health that you produce, or the health can be both a physical health symptom. So it could be like, I turn around and run. That's something that could happen as a result of the story that you tell yourself from the action taking place. I turn around and run. Or it could be an emotional health reaction. Like, I have a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of fear. I feel anxious. I'm like that. Those feelings is the emotional response to the story that you tell yourself. And then you have a physiological response to it too. So if you have a lot of anxiety from seeing the lion, and you're telling yourself the story that you're going to die, the cortisol levels in your blood could rise, which constrict your blood vessels and prepare you for the fight or flight response. And so there's actual physical changes that happen within the body because of the stories that you tell yourself from what took place. So that's just a quick example. I just wanted to show it to you with pictures so it makes more sense. But yes, you had a question?
And these stories that we tell ourselves, they come from everything that we've learned in our life up to this point, right? That's why we can do it so quickly.
Yeah. So a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves are deeply ingrained in us from either how we were raised or what happened to us. It could be something that happened to you, and because it happened to you, like, it could be trauma. Like, something happened to you, and as a result of that happening to you, then you have these deeply ingrained stories or beliefs within yourself that if something happens, then I will do whatever it is that you're going to do. So it could be something that's developed since childhood. It could be something that's developed as a result of something taking place in your life. But Yeah, so you're exactly right. These stories that we tell ourselves come from somewhere. So we'll also talk a little bit about how to identify some of that and how to change some of the behaviors or the stories that you tell yourself. But yes, so yeah, I wanted to show you this to you in pictures so that you got an idea of what we're going to talk about visually, and then I'm going to break it down and give you some examples. So this is the ASH framework. So you have your action, story, health. So I want to break this down a little bit further. So you have something happens, that's your action. The story, you tell yourself a story, and as a result, your brain responds physically, emotionally, and physiologically. So I call this PEP, P-E-P. I like to keep the acronym simple. So you have your ASH framework, and then you have your ASH and PEP. So we're going to break this down. So this one is just going to be physical responses to the action. So let's say that the action is I didn't get promoted, let me take that back. I don't like to use I statements when talking about actions because we want to try to remove as much of the emotion or the attachment to whatever happened. So I like to say, like, if you're going to break this down and you grab a sheet of paper, which, by the way, I recommend you do, grab a sheet of paper and start writing these notes down and start segmenting your papers into these sections so that you remember how to do this later. But so let's say that the action, something happened, try to remove all that emotion, try to remove the I statements from it, to remove yourself from it. So what happened? You didn't get promoted. That's what happened. And if you want to take it even further, just to make it even more simple, you can just say, didn't get promoted. That's it. Keep it as simple as that. So you didn't get promoted. The story that you tell yourself, I just wrote down a few of these. Try to remove my bar. There we go. Okay, now I can see it. So you tell yourself a story. I wrote down a couple examples. So the story that you could tell yourself from not getting promoted is, I must not be good enough, so I'm a failure. That could be a story that you tell yourself. Or my boss picks favorites. I didn't get promoted because my boss picks favorites. That's a story that you tell yourself. It could be I'm a slacker. I didn't work hard enough, so I'm a slacker, and I didn't get promoted because I'm slacking at work. That's a story that you tell yourself. It's harder for men or women to earn their place in this industry. That could be another example of a story that you tell yourself. This always happens to me. It could be another story that you tell yourself. The competition is too heavy. So all of these things, all of these stories that you tell yourself because of the action that took place, you didn't get promoted, results in these, got a couple more examples of this physically happening. So physical response to the stories that you tell yourself, you slam your fists on the desk and break your hands. That could be a physical response to those stories that you tell yourself. Or maybe your boss picks favorites. That's the story you tell yourself. So you write a nasty letter to HR. That's a physical response to the story. Or you decide to give up, or you work harder. So like if you're telling yourself you're a slacker, you could go one of two ways depending on how you frame that story in your mind. You could just give up. Say, I'm done. I'm going to quit. I'm going to go find another job that's easier for me to do. And so you give up. Or you can say, you know what, I feel like I'm slacking, but I know my weaknesses. I know the areas where I can improve. So I'm going to work harder in these areas, and therefore you work harder. So it really just depends on how you frame that story in your mind. But either way, it could end up going down two different roads there. So let's say it's harder for men and women to earn their place in this industry. So you decide to revolt, you act out against your employer, or you get a bunch of employees to work together to cause some sort of revolt. So that could be another physical response. You start acting out. This always happens to me. So if you're telling yourself that story and you get frustrated, you could storm out of the office and start crying. That's another physical response to what's happening. Or the competition is too heavy. So you sabotage your colleagues, you set them up for failure, and you start physically acting out to reduce that competition so that you can take that promotion spot. So these are just physical responses to the stories that you're telling yourself. So now let's talk about the emotional responses. So again, we got the same stories, same examples as before. You didn't get promoted. You must not be good, or I must not be good enough. I'm a failure. You got all the same stories that you're telling yourself from before, but now we're just going to talk about it emotionally. So these are some emotional symptoms that could happen as a result from the stories that you tell yourself. So you sink into a depression and you're super depressed because you feel like you're a failure and you're not good enough. That could be an emotional response to the story that you tell yourself. Or maybe like your boss picks favorites, so then you start to boil with anger and you're super angry about the belief that your boss is picking favorites and that's why you didn't get promoted. Or maybe it's like, I'm a slacker, so your self-esteem tanks, and or again, this go either way depending on how you frame the story. So your self-esteem could tank, or you could feel more motivated to work harder. So that could be an emotional response to that same story that you're telling yourself. And then it's harder for men or women to earn their place in this industry, so you feel discouraged. You don't feel like you can amount to what your boss or what the industry is looking for just because of your gender. I mean, it could be something like that, and you just feel discouraged, and so that's an emotional response to that. Or this always happens to me, so you feel deep sadness because you feel like this is a repeating action that's taking place over and over and over again, so it fills you with sadness. Or the competition is too heavy, so your anxiety starts to rise and you start to feel super anxious about the competition. So those are all emotional responses to the same stories. And then lastly, I want to talk about the physiological changes to those very same stories that you're telling yourself. These are actually, it's crazy, like the stories that you tell yourself, the things that you think in your mind actually change your body. It changes the way your body reacts, or the functions of your body, just simply on the thoughts or the things that you tell yourself. That's how powerful your brain is. It can literally cause physiological changes within your body. So let's talk about some of those. Again, we talked about, I must not be good enough. I'm a failure. So you sink into a depression. Your cortisol levels rise. Your blood vessels constrict, and so the cortisol stress hormone is causing a lot of those physiological symptoms. Or you have decreased dopamine and serotonin levels, so therefore you're feeling not as upbeat anymore. You're feeling sad. It's harder for you to feel like you're in a good mood because you don't have enough of that dopamine or serotonin chemicals in your brain. Or you have a release of adrenaline that can come from your anger. So you have this anger towards whatever story that you're telling yourself. So your adrenaline rises, and then your heart starts to race, and your blood pressure rises. And all of these things can cause chronic pain, fatigue, and increase or decrease in appetite, a whole bunch of other things. So when you're telling yourself these stories, think about the consequences or the health effects that's going to take place because of the stories that you're telling yourself. So ask yourself, like, what is this going to do for me physically? What is this going to do for me emotionally? What is this going to do for me physiologically? Is it going to produce the outcome that I'm looking for if I tell myself this story? So that's where we get into the cool part. So now that we've separated this into action, story, health, and we've looked at how some of the stories that you tell yourself about a certain action can produce these different outcomes, I want to talk about what it looks like in a positive and negative mind frame. So I broke it down into this quadrant. So you have your action story that takes place, a positive and negative story, and a positive and negative health benefit. So before I get into talking about the action and the positive and negative benefits, I want to talk about setting a goal. So before we were talking about producing a desired outcome. So you're trying to prepare yourself for something to take place. So a lot of this takes work in the sense that you're going to have to do a lot of reflection on yourself and the things that you've done. Look at how you've historically reacted to things, and then start setting goals for yourself. Like, okay, well, I've told myself these things before when these certain things have happened. So I want to set this goal so that way when these things happen, then I'm better prepared to make or tell myself better stories to produce a better health outcome. So let's say your goal is I desire to feel less stress, have more energy, and improve my mood when blank, whatever it is that historically happens, and it's outside of my control. So whenever that thing happens, you want to feel less stress, you want to have more energy and improve your mood. Like, that's just one example of a goal. You could have many different goals for yourself. I'm just picking this one so you can really be creative with what you want to do. But so let's say that's your goal. Now we have another action that takes place. So you say, let's say my spouse came home from work and said she got fired. Okay, so they came home, they told you they got fired, and you have a housing payment that is almost due and you don't have enough money for it yet. So that's the action. That's what took place. That's the problem, and that's the like outside of your control. That's something that your spouse told you. So now you have to react to it. You have to tell yourself a story. The positive story is like, I don't know what happened. You could end up talking with your spouse to find out what happened, but right now you don't know what happened. That's the reaction that took place. Remember, this happens in a split second, so you have to try to slow yourself down to think about these things to produce the outcome that you desire. So they just told you they got fired, so you're telling yourself, I don't know what happened, but I'm sure we can both be resourceful and find a few ways to increase our revenue this month. I'd say that's a pretty positive story. Right. You really don't know all the information, but you're framing it in a way that, okay, my spouse got fired. We're going to have to make some changes, maybe cut down on some spending. We can be resourceful. We can maybe find a few other ways to turn on some revenue faucets, increase our revenue this month. So you're starting to already think positively about what you can do next. So the health benefits, again, here's our PEP. We got our physical, emotional, and physiological responses. So physical response, you're like, okay, this, I don't know what happened. We can be resourceful. So you give your spouse a hug and console your spouse, and you start to feel more optimistic and confident that you can overcome this problem and that you can solve it together. And so your energy increases, your cortisol decreases as a result. So you start to feel better. You start to feel that less stress, more energy, and improved mood, which was the goal that you set for yourself in the first place. So that's the story. That's the consequence. That's a health benefit of what happens when you tell yourself that positive story. Now, let's say you tell yourself a negative story. My spouse is so irresponsible, he or she can't even do the dishes around here without clear direction and nagging. That could be a story that you tell yourself. Maybe maybe it was a bad day for you and they just didn't do the dishes that day, but most of the days they do. And you're just like, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. And so they come home and tell you they got fired. And so that's the first thing that pops into your head is, my spouse is so irresponsible. They must have done something at work to deserve getting fired, and so I can't do anything without, or get them to do anything without nagging or constantly badgering them to do whatever it is they need to do. So the negative health benefits, maybe you storm off into the bedroom and you slam the door. You start to feel angry and let down, and because you feel angry and let down at your spouse, and it causes the stress hormones to increase, your blood pressure rises, your heart starts to pound. Like, these are all responses to that story that you told yourself. And so, again, it really, it doesn't produce that goal or that desire that you had when you tell yourself those kinds of stories. So this is super easy to do, like, after something has already happened. when you break it down after something's already happened, you can say, okay, well, this took place. How did I react? You can write down the story that you told yourself. You can write down the experience you had as a result of the story that told yourself. Super easy to do in hindsight. Doing this real time takes a lot of practice and a lot of work. So you have to constantly be in your goals, which I recommend you get out a journal. You start writing down all of the things that you want to achieve and just review it every single day so it's fresh in your mind. Because when you do that and those goals are fresh in your mind and something happens, you can immediately pop that goal into your head. Okay, I want to feel less stress. I want to have more energy and improve my mood. So, okay, so this just happened. What am I going to tell myself that's going to serve me in a way that's going to produce that outcome? So now you have your goals at the front of your mind. Something happens in the future that you aren't necessarily prepared for, but what you are prepared to do is tell yourself a story to produce whatever health outcome that you're looking to achieve. So that takes a lot of work. I suggest you start by practicing looking at the stories that you tell yourself in hindsight. Write down the actions. You can split up, grab a piece of paper, split it up exactly like this, write it out into 3 columns, 4 quadrants, 2 in story, 2 in health, and then start working through all of these actions that took place and the stories and the health benefits that resulted from it. And then once things happen to you real time, you'll be more prepared to slow that thought process down into a long enough period for you to make the decision to tell yourself a certain story to get those outcomes. So
when you do this in hindsight, before we move forward, do you also take in consideration what your reactions also caused to your spouse or person that came to tell you the story? Because you don't realize that your reactions and the stories you tell yourself, which causes your health to either be positive or negative, is also creating a reaction for them as well. Because
yeah,
it's like, and when you look at it in hindsight, you kind of also need to take that, okay, well, how did my reactions, help or worsen the situation? Because the other person is also taking all this information in and having their own reactions. So it can cause your day moving forward to even be more stressful because you didn't give the support that you were expected to give as well. And it's like, it's another thing you have to kind of layer on, but it's also something to be aware of, because you are trying, if you stay more positive and you can keep yourself into control, then you can also help your other person stay towards the positive as well, instead of taking them down a deeper rabbit hole. Because besides being upset that they lost the job, they don't want to come home and have you totally disappointed with them as well.
Yep, absolutely right. So the stories that you tell yourself not only can affect you, but they can affect other people as well. So what I like to do in this sense is if you're gonna think about other people, you first have to think about yourself. It's not selfish. You have to think about how are you going to serve yourself to feel better and have that energy. So, because if you're not,
Right.
If you're not going to take care of yourself first, then the stories that you tell yourself could, you could get stuck in that negative story mind frame where you keep telling yourself these negative stories, and you're trying to think about how to serve other people first before yourself. And what that does is when you, like, let's say use the story you tell yourself is, my spouse is so irresponsible, they can't even do the dishes around here without clear direction and nagging. But you're thinking about your spouse and how they might react to that story. So maybe you don't slam the door. That could also be a physical reaction, is that you shut down and you get completely quiet. That can be a physical reaction to it. So maybe you don't react in a way that they see it, but it's still a physical reaction if you hold your tongue. And so So that physical reaction, you shut down, you don't say anything because you're trying to prevent your spouse or somebody else from reacting or yeah, I'm just going to say reacting to you slamming the door, because their reaction could end up being worse from you slamming the door. So you're trying to, okay, I want to avoid that. I want to avoid a fight. I want to avoid an argument. So I'm just going to shut my mouth. So that could be something that you do. And then because of that, you're still feeling angry and let down. Your stress hormones still increase and your blood pressure rises. That energy, it doesn't matter if you don't say anything or not. If you're trying to appeal to other people in a way that influences them to do whatever it is you're desiring, but you have that negative frame mindset and you're still having those negative reactions to those stories, it doesn't matter if they can see it or not. They can feel that energy.
Right.
I can promise you, they can feel that energy that you're holding within yourself. And so if you don't serve yourself first, if you don't take care of that mindset and reframe that story into a positive story that produces those positive outcomes, once you produce those positive outcomes, then yes, I totally agree. Think about the other party. Think about how they might react, and then they can feel that energy that you carry. So now they're feeling that positive energy. The story that you're telling yourself is much more serving to both of you because of the way you framed it, and then you can, like, now that you've got those positive results, you can inspire your partner or your spouse to also do the same thing. Like maybe they were thinking negative at first, but because of your reaction, because of the story that you told yourself and the positive reaction that you had to it, they can sense your positive energy. Maybe they've now reframed that story. And so now both of you have a stronger bond and you're working together to achieve something. And so, yes, you can influence another person through the same process, through the action story health, but first take care of your mindset, first take care of your health. So that way, when you go to inspire somebody else or try to influence their desires in a positive way, that you're doing so with the right intentions, and then they can grow alongside you.
Awesome. That's a good reminder. I'm a giver first, so sometimes you have to remind yourself, no. First, take care of yourself so you can give.
So easy for us to slip into that. And we're like, okay, well, I got to take care of this person. I'm going to discount myself first and make sure that their needs are taken care of before I take care of myself. And it just causes you to slip into this downward spiral, and it's so hard to pull out of it. But if you put yourself first in this situation, which again, like it's not something that you put yourself first for days, weeks, months at a time. It's seconds. That's how fast this whole process works. So give yourself a few seconds to put yourself first, to think about the story that you're telling yourself so that you can produce those outcomes. And then once you've given yourself the time to do that, then you can start thinking about how it's going to impact other people. Just take a few minutes, or take a few seconds, few minutes at the most, until you've reframed yourself, and then you're good to go.
Awesome.
So now that we've gone through the action story health framework, let's talk about this. How do I overcome patterns of unhealthy behaviors that limit my progress? So this is another good one I want to talk about, because we've just talked about how to reframe your mindset in a way that produces a desired outcome. So let's say you've reframed your mindset, you've done that to produce that result, but you have these things that take place that are limiting your progress. So I want to talk about this real fast. This is the emotions wheel. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I love this wheel.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so powerful, but the core is at the center. So I don't know if you can see my little cursor, but you have your happy, sad, disgusted, angry, fearful, bad, and surprised. This is the core right here. These are your core emotions. From there, they branch out and they get a little bit more specific. So let's say I feel happy, but you want to take this deeper. Well, I'm not just happy, I'm feeling playful right now. Okay, well, if you're feeling playful, you could be aroused or cheeky. Like you can really you want to try to get out into this outer circle as much as possible to identify how you're feeling and how you're reacting to things. So try to get into the outer circle. And then once you've gotten to the outer circle, you can work your way in. Okay, so I'm feeling aroused. I'm aroused because I'm feeling playful. I'm at the park with the kids. And so because I'm feeling playful, I mean, I'm in a good mood, so I'm feeling happy. It could be as simple as that. So now that we're looking at this wheel, I want to talk about okay, well, so there's a lot of stuff on here. What should I be paying attention to? Right there. This right here is your sweet spot, or what I like to call your sweet spot. So these are all good emotions to have. I'm happy, I'm accepted, I'm proud, powerful. Like all these are great emotions to have. Some of these, surprised, you could, depends on how you frame it. Like some of these are good, some of these are bad. But let's say you're surprised, you're startled, and you're shocked. Okay, so you're shocked, but maybe you're shocked because you came home and your spouse threw a surprise birthday party for you. I don't know. It could be something like that, and it's a good surprise. It's a good shock. So some of these, depending on how you frame it on the surprise side, could be positive or negative. Most of these happy ones are pretty positive, I would say. So I'd like to say that this is your sweet spot over here. This side, I like to call your no-go zone. Some of these emotions over here may serve you well. So don't get that confused with I should not feel these emotions. These emotions, I say you should feel them, you should experience them, but you shouldn't dwell on them, and you shouldn't let them eat away at you. So like again, fearful might be a great emotion to have if you're being chased down by a lion, like what we saw earlier. It could be a great emotion that will serve you in that situation. But if you're constantly feeling fearful because of things that are taking place that aren't necessarily all that fearful, it's not serving you. So think about things like that. Ask yourself, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? Is it serving me in a way that, like before when we broke down the mindset, is it serving me in a way that's going to produce that outcome that I desire? So if it's not, I want to talk about these cognitive traps. So these are all cognitive traps that you could have when you're stuck in these unhealthy behaviors or patterns of thinking. So you have your all or nothing mindset. You have your overgeneralizing mindset, your mental filter, you're disqualifying the positive, jumping to conclusions, magnification and minimization, emotional reasoning. This one's my favorite just because the shoulding yourself. Sometimes you just should all over yourself. And then there's labeling and personalization. So these are your cognitive traps. And so what are they? All or nothing thinking is there's no gray. It's either black or white. It's my way or the highway. That's an all or nothing cognitive trap. So when you're analyzing yourself, ask yourself, am I thinking in an all or nothing mindset? Is it black and white only, no gray? So those are some things that you can ask yourself to identify whether you've got that all or nothing mindset. That all or nothing mindset doesn't it's not going to serve you in a sense that it's my way or the highway. Like there's so many different options. You have to think outside the box, and not only outside the box, but think that there is no box. Okay, it's like that's how you have to look at it. But so ask yourself, am I falling into an all or nothing mindset? The next one is overgeneralizing. Nothing good ever happens. Okay, well, nothing good ever happens. I'm pretty sure that good things happen. You're just falling into that overgeneralizing mindset by saying that like nothing good ever, like that's the key word here is ever. So nothing good ever happens. I'm pretty sure it does. So you can break that down by, am I overgeneralizing something by saying that like this always happens or nothing good ever happens? Always, ever, never, like all of those things are overgeneralizing terms. Then you have your mental filter. So things happen and you filter out information that that shouldn't necessarily be filtered out. So you only allow little pieces to get through. So you're like telling yourself, I messed up. Like I didn't do a good job. I screwed up this project, but you're not taking into account that that project actually won you an award. Like the project itself did really, really well. You won an award for it, or your company won an award for it. Or maybe it's a performance and you're on stage and you're acting and the whole play or the whole movie itself won an award for the performance, but you're like, well, I tripped on stage. Well, who cares if you tripped? You're filtering out all the other things that took place. Yeah, you tripped, but nobody noticed and you won an award. That's a mental filter that you're applying to yourself there. Then you have disqualifying the positive. So you got a little guy here taking out the trash. The trash bag's full of positive, but the trash can's a negative. So you're throwing out like, yeah, but this doesn't count. Well, why doesn't it count? Because I'm pretty sure it counts in some way. So how can it count? If you're not keeping track of all of your wins, like this is where a gratitude journal comes in really, really handy. If you're not keeping inventory of all of those positive things and you're just tossing them out like trash, like, I got that, but it doesn't really count. Or yeah, I got that certification, but it's just a certification. Nobody really looks at it. It doesn't really matter. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure it matters. You achieved that you got that certification because you worked hard. That's a good thing to have. It's a good thing to keep on your inventory. Just because that you think that it doesn't mean anything to anybody else doesn't mean that it doesn't have to mean something to you. So keep that in mind. Don't disqualify positive things that happen just because you think that it doesn't count or somebody else doesn't matter to somebody else. Jumping to conclusions, 2 + 2 = duck. That's a kind of a jump to a conclusion kind of thing. I know what you're thinking. This is the predicting the future or trying to read somebody's mind. Like you're jumping to conclusions before you have all the information. So that's another cognitive trap you can fall into. Magnification and minimization. If I don't win, I'm going to die. This is like the catastrophizing mindset. So you're always thinking the worst possible case scenario, or you're not giving it enough credit, and maybe something very serious happened, and you're like, yeah, whatever. Like that could be the minimization piece of it. Like maybe you blew a red light, and because you blew a red light, you caused somebody to get into a serious accident. You're like, well, I blew the red light, but nobody died. They got into a really bad accident, but nobody died. Like that's a minimization kind of mindset. You're like, yeah, it's very serious. You blew a red light. You caused somebody to get into a really bad wreck. Maybe they didn't die, but they're really hurt, and it's going to take them a long time to recover. So that's that minimization piece to it. You have your emotional reasoning then as well. So your emotional reasoning, you're attaching an emotion to something, and you're because you have that emotion, it in your mind it validates that I must be right. So in this sense, like I feel inadequate, so I must be dumb. Because you feel that emotion of inadequacy, you're already you have that I'm right. I know that I must be dumb because I'm inadequate, and inadequacy means dumb. It's not necessarily the case or the truth here. You're just attaching that emotion to the belief that you're dumb, and using that to justify that answer or that belief that you have about yourself. So that's your emotional reasoning. Shooting yourself. I have this one. You have two doors to go through. One, you open the door and it's on fire, and you burn yourself on the door handle. The other door opens and it's a completely clear room. And you start telling yourself, man, I should have opened the other door. Well, how could you have known to open the other door? How could you have known that there was a fire behind that door? You couldn't have. They're both closed. So don't apply those shoulds to yourself just for the fact that something happened to you that was outside of your control that you didn't know about, and you're trying to frame it like, well, I should have known better, or I should have done this, or should have done that, or should have gone through the other door. And then you have your labeling. So you just slap a label on something. Like, oh, this is stupid. This is stupid. You're stupid. I'm stupid. It could be as simple as that. You're just slapping a label on something and calling it whatever it is. And that could be another cognitive trap that really prevents you from achieving what you're trying to achieve. And then you have your personalization. So this one's where you're looking at yourself and you're like, this is all my fault. And so you place that blame on you, and you attach that personalization to whatever it is that happened, and you make it your problem or your fault. Some things happen that are outside of your control. You can't do anything about it. Doesn't mean it's your fault. So that's that personalization piece. So all of these cognitive traps, these are all things that prevent you, they're behaviors that prevent you from doing something, from thinking something, from feeling a certain way, from achieving a certain health outcome or wellness outcome or wealth outcome. It could be anything that you're trying to do. And these cognitive traps will prevent you from getting that or getting there just because of how you framed your thought process. So actually, before I go here, so you have your cognitive traps. I won't go too far back. So you have your cognitive traps. We looked at the emotions wheel. So look at the emotions wheel. What emotions are you experiencing? Are you if it's on the right side of that wheel, the no-go zone, are they serving you, or not are they serving you? Are those negative emotions attached to any cognitive traps that are causing you to think or feel a certain way? If they are, now that you've identified those cognitive traps, you can change that thought process using the ASH method or the ASH framework. So that way you can change your behaviors or change your thought processes so that you start doing things differently. It all comes down to a choice. You have a choice to make, and it's really as simple as, are you going to do it or are you not? And are you put in the hard work? Are you going to reframe your mindset? Are you going to change your habits? Are you going to start doing something differently? Which leads me into this challenge.
That sometimes is the hardest part. To actually really ask yourself, oh my gosh, look what you're doing, and realizing that you're attaching those negative emotions and feelings, and that you really are just beating yourself down over and over again. And once you kind of realize that, and you're like, okay, this has got to stop. And when you finally realize, I can change this, it makes you see things in a whole different way, that you're just, it's like taking little blinders off, and you're just like, whoa. Or at least it was for me when I realized that I was doing most of this stuff to myself, that you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, it is really the hardest part. And once you've made the decision to do something differently, like that's where the real work and the real change starts to happen. Like once you've committed to yourself and you've made that decision, then progress is inevitable. It will happen just because you simply decided to do it. But yeah, that's definitely the hardest part is deciding and committing to yourself that you're going to change and do something different.
Right.
So that brings me to my next challenge. I have a challenge for this group. There we go. The time challenge. So I wrote it down from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. That gives you 8 hours of sleep from 9 to 5 a.m. You can use that as your sleep time. It's average 8 hours of sleep. Some people need a little bit more. Some people need a little bit less. We're just going to go with an average here. So average person needs about 8 hours of sleep a night to feel and function like a normal human being. So from 5 a.m., take a sheet of paper, just create a line. If you need a little bit more space it out a little bit more. Maybe make it 2 pieces of paper. I don't know how big your piece of paper is, but write down every single hour and do this. There we go. Do this for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, write down from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., write down exactly what you did every single hour. So with it from 5 to 6 a.m., write down exactly what you did. From 6 to 7 a.m., write down exactly what you did within that time frame. And do that for every single hour all the way up to 9 p.m. If you do this for 2 weeks, I guarantee you're going to start seeing, oh, wow, I'm spending way too much time watching TV, or I'm spending way too much time on my cell phone, or way too much time on social media, or way too much time doing the dishes, doing laundry, or mowing the lawn. I don't know. It could you'll start to find these trends and these patterns that you've got within your day that it's just wasted time. And once you've identified those things that you're spending too much time on, then you can start cutting things down and getting rid of those time sucks, so that you can have more room to spend with your family, or more room to spend meditating, or more room to spend working out, or doing the things that you want to do, just by removing some of the junk. So I do this every once in a while. If you're just feeling bogged down, or like you have a huge to-do list or task list and it's like paralyzing you, that's when it's probably a good time to do this time challenge. Is just do this for 2 weeks and figure out, okay, did I slip into any bad habits where I'm doing too much of one thing and not enough of another, or maybe I'm burning out and I need to maybe I'm doing too much and I need to take a little bit of time off and have take an entire day or maybe an entire weekend to go on a trip with the family and do a reset. Those are important. Sometimes it's important to have that time to let your body readjust, wind down, and then get some clarity through just doing mindless activities. I say
it'll also show you, like, if you keep telling yourself you don't have time to do something, where you actually do have time, and
yes,
that you're just not prioritizing your time properly.
Yes, it will. Since the beginning, we've all had the same amount of time every single day. It's like it doesn't change. Nobody has more time than another. So it's really just where are you spending your time? What are you doing? But yeah, so do that first. If you're feeling bogged down, or if you're feeling too emotional or too overwhelmed, do the time challenge. Then start. An easy way to do this: don't do it all in one sitting at the end of the day. I'll just recommend that. I've done that before, and it's a nightmare. I spend way too much time thinking about, like, what did I do at 5 a.m.? Okay, what did I do at 6 a.m.? What did I do at 7 a.m.? And then you start trying to recount your day. So just set a timer every hour, or actually every 45 minutes. Set a timer for every 45 minutes. And then, or maybe even 50 minutes, and spend the last 10 minutes of that hour writing down and documenting everything you did for that hour. And then that way it's fresh on your mind and you don't have to try to recount it at the end of the day. But just every 50 minutes from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., set an alarm so that way you can go through and write down what happened or what you did. So now how do I find clarity and identify what I really should be doing? This is a good one. Your authentic self will tell you that. I promise you, your authentic self will tell you what you should be doing. And so your authentic self, turn your attention inward and deeply reflect on your values. What is most important to you in life? What do you value? Where does your sense of right and wrong come from? Your values make up the core of who you are. And if you're being true to yourself and your values, these core beliefs will drive your behavior. So that's like, take a screenshot of that, write it down, keep that. If you're wondering what you should be doing, just read that phrase out to yourself. Write it on your bathroom mirror. Put it somewhere where you're going to see it all the time. Like that statement will help you find so much clarity when you turn your attention inward and reflect on you, reflect on your values and what's most important to you, and where you get your sense of right and wrong from. That'll help drive you and put you on the right path to doing what the things that you're supposed to be doing, or doing the things that will serve you and the people that you love. So your internal board of directors, this goes hand in hand with your authentic self. So once you've done that reflection and you've looked at your values and you've looked at like what's most important to you, I want you to start building an internal board of directors. So these are all people that are influential to you, that are important to you, and people that you look up to. And so, like, let's say one of the things you value is resilience. You could value resilience, intelligence, creativity, freedom, wellness, integrity, patience, strength, trust, love. Like, these are all values that you could have at your very core. There's so many more, by the way. I just picked a few, but there are so many things that you could value that are important to you that could be different from somebody else. So let's say that you value trust. So an internal board of director, like, try to think of somebody that you really look up to, that's really important to you, that is a very trustworthy person, somebody that you admire, or that's close to you, that's very trustworthy. Try to picture that person and put them on your internal board of directors. And so you're thinking, okay, well, this person, I love them dearly. They're very trustworthy. So now you can start making stories up about this person. So let's say that something happens, then you can reference your internal board of directors. It didn't happen to them, it's happening to you, but then you can ask yourself, okay, how would this person react in this kind of situation? Because they're so trustworthy, how would they handle this situation? How can I model myself after that? So then you can start putting these internal board of directors through these scenarios, and you can start making up this imaginary story of this problem that they are going to deal with, but it's your problem. And then you can model yourself after how they've handled it in the story that you tell yourself in your head. So you have somebody that's very trustworthy. You have somebody that's very creative on your internal board of directors. You have somebody that's very intelligent, or patient, or very loving, or very strong, or somebody who has a lot of integrity or freedom. And so you start building this internal board of directors. And then these are all people that you can look up to. It could be your dream 100. It could be your family. It could be your friends. Like this could be anybody that you really admire or look up to. Now, I did not include this on a slide, but I do want to talk about this for just a second. Your internal board of directors could have somebody that has something that won't serve you. So let's say there's somebody that you don't admire. They don't necessarily serve you. They did something to you, and or something to somebody you know. Maybe they're a thief and they stole a bunch of property. They stole a bunch of money. You can still put that person on your internal board of directors, to serve you as something that you shouldn't do or shouldn't model yourself after. So if there's somebody that's like that, you're like, they go against everything that I value. They go against everything that I believe in, or everything that they go against my morals and my ethics. But I'm going to place them on my internal board of directors, because if something happens, I can also reference them as something that I shouldn't model myself after, and I shouldn't react in the ways that they did, or the ways that they've proven to act like. So those negative or those negative things, or those things that you don't necessarily want to be, can also serve you in a positive way if you put them on your internal board of directors. But for the most part, I want to focus on, like, you shouldn't have an internal board of directors solely of people you don't want to model yourself after. It should be primarily people that you look up to, people that have these positive traits, people that really serve you in a positive light. And then maybe sprinkle in a few of those. Okay, well, I shouldn't do that, or shouldn't model myself after this. So that person's there to help keep me on the right track and prevent me from slipping into that or falling onto that path. So, okay, I think I got it. But how do I remain resilient in the tough times? 4 pillars of fitness. I have this 4 pillars of fitness. I derived this from my time in the Air Force. The Air Force has these same pillars, and I've used them to further my development and how I react to things. And I've dove deeper and deeper and deeper into these 4 pillars. And discovered a lot of useful things and tricks and secrets that have served me very, very well. So I will always use these as a frame of how I remain resilient. But the first pillar is your mental fitness, or your mental health. Your second pillar is your spiritual fitness and your spiritual health. Third one is your physical. And then your fourth one is your social. So I like to look at it like this. So you have your 4 pillars. Each category of fitness is a pillar on which there's a roof. So I got this like Roman kind of pillar with this roof on top. And so I want you to picture if this, like, maybe your physical health isn't doing so great, and this pillar here starts to crumble and it falls apart, then all of the stress from this roof being your overall wellness starts to, like, all the pressures on these pillars and these pillars, there's not enough support here. And then all of a sudden this starts to crumble right here. And then the whole roof collapses and falls through the gap. Same thing could happen here. Same thing could happen here. Maybe it's your spiritual and your physical health, and these 2 pillars start to collapse and the whole roof caves in at the middle. So you look at your health like that, because you've got it separated into 4 categories: your mental, your spiritual, your physical, and your social. So when you're looking at resilience, you're looking at your ability to bounce back from something that happened. Think of yourself as a rubber band. Something happens to you, you bounce right back into the same spot that you were before, and you're still whole. You're not broken. So you have to take care of your mental health. You have to spend that time meditating, journaling. You have to, if it serves you, then go see a therapist or talk to somebody, talk to a counselor, get a coach. All of those things can help you or help serve your mental health. So make sure you're taking the time or doing the things that you need to do to take care of your mental health. Then you have your spiritual health. This could be religious. It could be not religious. So when I'm talking about spirituality here, it could be multiple different things. So this could be your religion. This could be like, I'm very connected to my higher power. Like, this is my religion guides me. Like, that's the root of who I am. So that's great. But your spirituality could come from something else too. It could be It could be energy, it could be the universe, it could be like just a belief in a higher power or something that's greater than you. That's your spirituality, something that is greater than you, that that you connect with and seek guidance from. That's your spirituality. Then you have your physical health. This could be your physical fitness. How fit are you? How healthy or sick are you? How much sleep are you getting? Are you drinking enough water? Are you eating enough healthy foods? Like this all falls into physical health. You don't have to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, ripped bodybuilder to have good physical health. Some people don't want that. You could if that's your goal, but if your goal is to just, I want to have better energy or I want to feel good, and so therefore I work out 3 times a week for about 30 minutes. I eat clean, healthy foods. I'm not super muscular, but I'm not overweight. Like that could be, that's still physically healthy. So you don't have to have that working out twice a day, eating 6 meals a day kind of bodybuilding mental attitude towards your physical health. It just has to be, am I getting enough exercise? Am I eating healthy foods? Do I have enough energy? Am I sleeping enough? That's all part of your physical health. Then you have your social health. This is where you are you interacting with people. I don't care if you're introverted or not. I mean, this is important. If you're not spending enough time networking, if you're not spending enough time with your friends, if you're not spending enough time with your family, you're not socializing with people, and you're secluding yourself, that's going to cause a lot of issues. Not only with like that could bleed into your mental health and cause mental health issues. It could bleed into your spiritual health. I mean, it could cause different issues. But
that's one I find that you have to put the most effort
yes,
to reach out to other people, because being friends with somebody doesn't mean that they always just reach out to you. You have to go both ways. And I know men and women are different in how they socialize with people, but you still have to be a willing participant. And sometimes, even if you're introverted or extroverted, sometimes just finding the right type of people that you connect with makes all the difference in the world. And a new thing that I've done recently is just working with my Facebook groups of the ones that I really enjoy, is trying to reach out to more people that are in my local area that I can build a better common ground with. Because, I mean, it's a little scary, but you also, if you don't try, you don't get anything.
absolutely. So, yeah, your social health is super, super important in that sense, and you have to actually be deliberate about it and interact with people to maintain that. So, I won't get into too deep, like, because that's a whole nother masterclass of like each one of these pillars could be its own masterclass. So I won't get into this too deep. But if you're asking yourself, how do I remain resilient? Look at those 4 pillars. Ask yourself, okay, how's my mental fitness? Am I doing the things I need to do to take care of that? Am I doing enough things to take care of my spirituality? Am I doing enough things to take care of my physical health? Am I doing enough things to take care of my social networks? So ask yourself those questions, and if the answer is no, then again, start. What are you gonna do about it? Are you going to keep doing the same things that you've been doing, or are you going to start making some changes to add some things into your life, or take some things out of your life that aren't serving you? Again, just ask yourself, what stories am I telling myself? Do those stories serve me? And if they don't, then I probably should reframe my mindset in a way that I can tell myself a new story that will produce a better outcome for me. So let's walk through a mindset issue. So I wanted to do an open Q&A, and Tori, I know we don't have anybody else on the call, so if you're watching this live, throw something in the comments, and I'd be happy to walk through this live while I'm on the call with Tori. Or Tori, if you've got something, I'd be happy to walk through this with you as well, and then we could just open this up for a Q&A and wrap this up. Awesome.
Well, one of the mindset issue yesterday, because not every day are always good days. And so like yesterday, I was just kind of having an off day. And it took me about midway through the morning before I realized, okay, you are not where you should be. And so I had to physically shake myself out of it and do some journaling and working on different things to be able to realize that it was okay, that you know, you can have bad days, but what are other good ways to shake yourself out of it besides just kind of journaling down the feelings that you're having and trying to, I always, when I journal, try to just mind dump everything that I can, because even if I don't go back and read it, just getting it out of my head helps me to release it away.
Mm-hmm. So if you were having a bad day, like, let's try to dissect that a little bit. And so something had to have happened, or you had to have told yourself something to make that a bad day. So what happened yesterday, or what happened throughout your day that caused that feeling of I'm having a bad day, or like when did you start to feel that you were having a bad day?
Well, my I guess my confidence wasn't as high as I wanted it to be. Yesterday, I did go to bowling, and usually when I'm in my bowling league, I try to have a very positive, open-minded, relaxed experience. Otherwise, I tend to not bowl well because I try to force, okay, relax, you're having a great time, just release that ball nice and gently. And the first game, I did much better, but the second game, I had a really off game that I just couldn't pick up any of my spares, and was just really frustrated that I wasn't relaxing. And I think it was just because I was more concerned on what different types of content, because I was trying to come up with content ideas for next month, and getting ahead of myself. Sometimes I will not realize that I have as much knowledge as I do. And until I actually can be in a point where I can list things out, or have somebody go, no, you really know what you're talking about, that my confidence is just like, oh, well, maybe it's just a rough day, or there was a new bowler that was subbing for us. So I might have been trying to make her feel comfortable, yet I wasn't comfortable bowling in front of her yet. And so it was causing me to just have doubts. And when I start having doubts is when it'll just shake me, that's when I have to realize, okay, well, why are you having these doubts? What are you really doubting about? Because it then just kind of leads back to other things that, oh, well, you were just thinking about stuff that you have no control over. And when I start doubting things that I don't have control over, that's when I tend to feel less confident, because I have to remind myself, well, you don't really have control over that. So to sit here and worry about why you're doubting yourself, you're just being silly at this point. So those are how I try to work through my doubts. And it usually comes back to not being able to have control over something that I want to have control over, but it's not in my control to have it.
Okay.
So having to release that will help me um, gain more control.
Absolutely. So let's look at this. Let's look at bowling as the action that took place. So we're going to do this Ash reframe here. But let's say that you started to feel these feelings of a lack of confidence while you're bowling. So you're bowling, and you said you were like, you had a good game, but then all of a sudden, like, you couldn't pick up any of your spares, and then you had a new bowler, and you didn't feel up to par, or you started telling yourself these stories that, okay, I can't pick up any of my spares. I'm not bowling very well. I'm bowling a bad game. So I'm not confident. I don't feel comfortable in performing in front of this new bowler. And these are the stories that you're telling yourself. Now it's framing your mindset to already produce that feeling of a lack of confidence, not only in your bowling, but throughout the rest of the day. So you already framed yourself to think and believe that you're not confident because you're telling yourself, I can't pick up any of my spares. I'm not comfortable in doing this. I don't think I'm bowling a great game, or I'm not doing good enough. Whatever those stories you were telling yourself are, they're already framing you to have that feeling of a lack of confidence. Then you go, like, let's say you go home and you start thinking about all this content that you want to do. You said you're getting ahead of yourself and trying to plan out this content. Now that you've already framed yourself to feel that you're not confident during your bowling game, that carried over into your work of now I got to think about content, but I'm not feeling very confident because I didn't bowl a very good game, and I just didn't feel comfortable, and it wasn't a good day at the bowling game. So now you're still dwelling on that feeling of a lack of confidence as you're trying to do that work. So if you look at this in hindsight, if you were at that bowling, the moment you started to feel like you weren't bowling well enough, Tori, I've never bowled with you, Tori. So let's say what's your highest game score when you're bowling?
188 this season.
Okay, so 188. So you bowled a 188, and then what did you bowl that day?
Yesterday I did a 144, a 101 was the game that really got me.
101.
Oh,
you bowled a 101, but you were bowling 180s before. So you've done it before. You've had really great games before. So, like, just because you have bowled a 101, does that mean that you're not bowling? Like, you're not a good bowler, or you're not? You just don't. Like, you can't pick up your spares. No, of course not. Like, you've bowled well before, so you can frame yourself. Okay, well, I'm not like this game might have been a flop, but the next game I play, I can really crush it. So maybe I take a moment to go grab a snack or go grab a drink, just take a break from bowling a game, and then come back the next game. Like, I'm gonna crush it. Okay, the story I'm gonna tell myself is, I didn't bowl well the last game, but maybe I needed a break. So I'm going to give myself a break so that the next game that I play, I can really crush it. And now you're reframing that mindset so that you don't feel that lack of confidence. You're instilling that confidence in you because you're telling yourself, I'm going to crush it. I'm going to bowl a great game. I bowled a 184 before. I bowled a 180 last game, but because I bowled a 180 before, and I know my capabilities, I'm going to really crush this next game.
I'm not going to overthink it anymore. That's when I go downhill, is when I start overthinking and overanalyzing and putting too much thought and pressure into it, instead of just going, okay, quickly go up, look, see what you need to do, and throw the ball down the aisle.
Yep. When you do that, and if you take a moment to pause, like, again, that those mindset things happen so fast. So if you take a moment to pause and think through it, like, okay, what stories am I telling myself? I'm going to change my story. When you change your story, you change the results. When you change the results, then you change everything.
Everything. It's
I
the story. The story that is the big thing that you have to just remind yourself. Change the story.
change your story, you change your life.
And your mind will go with you. That's the best part.
Yeah.
It's like your mind isn't set into one particular pattern or behavior. You can encourage it to change and be the way you want it to be. You just have to keep the focus on what you want to do and where you want to go. I love the mind.
Yeah, I really do too. So like that, again, I can't stress enough like how important it is to frame your thoughts through that ASH framework. Because once you do that, again, I guarantee you that if you can stop yourself and change that story, those feelings won't carry over. Those negative feelings won't carry over into other activities that you're doing. And so, like, one bad game is one bad game, and it doesn't make a whole bad day.
Right.
So that's the difference here. So.
Awesome.
But that's about it for me. Do you have any questions, Tori, or does anybody else have any questions? I don't see.
There's not any questions, but this has been so fantastic. If somebody wants to know more from you or find out more information, where can they go to find more on you?
Yes. So if you want to follow my journey and what I'm doing, I'm kind of all over the place right now. So I have my Meme Yourself Mastery Academy where I'm going to be teaching a lot of this stuff. I have my Meme Yourself Mastery Academy group that you can go in and be a part of. And this group will, I'll be posting a lot of content like this training that we just did in your group. So if you want to dive deeper into mindset, dive deeper into the 4 pillars of fitness and really talk about self-awareness, you can go and interact there. And then I also have, like, you can connect with me on my Facebook page. You're always welcome to send me a message. I'd be happy to hear from you. And then if you just search Kyle Gese, you can interact with my page as well. So I have my own my page that you can check out and see what's coming or what I'm working on and what's coming next. I've got all sorts of fun stuff coming out. So like I just got a book that was released yesterday. We were supposed to do the announcement today, but it published a little bit earlier than we anticipated. So I co-authored a book called the Limitless Expansion Secrets, and that released yesterday. It is available now. There was 10 of us that co-authored this book and just poured as much value into it as we could. So we wanted to do something similar, or add as much value as we can to the people that read it. We only made it 99 cents, so we're not getting rich off of it. We just wanted to help people and
awesome.
Deliver something that everybody could use and everybody could gain some benefit from. So if you're interested in that, you can find it on Amazon. It's available on the Amazon Kindle app. Yeah, you can connect with me either through my Facebook page, my personal page, send me a message, or you can join my group, Meme Yourself Mastery Academy.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for all of this. This has been fantastic. I know everyone is going to get lots out of this. And so I so appreciate you being here and sharing your knowledge with us.